Hi children, how are you? In the last Zoom meeting, most of you are present and I am very happy to see you all. Those who missed the chance will wait for the next time. Let's begin today's class. Are you bored after studying geography? Let's have a change. Just go through our past. Do you like to study history? Yes. Historians divide the historic period into three, such as the ancient Indian history, the medieval Indian history, and the modern Indian history. In the last year, in class 6, you learned the ancient Indian history about the early men and the early kingdoms. This year, we are going to learn about the medieval Indian history. It's a long period of time of about thousands of years, from 700 to 1750. It is not an easy task for the historians to find out this long period of time. No, now let's go through the lesson and find out how the historians tracing changes through this long period of time. Tracing changes through 1,000 years. This is an introductory lesson to the medieval period. We are going to learn about the important changes took place during this long span of years, about 1,000 years. Cartography. Cartography is the science of map making. A cartographer is a person who makes maps. The science of cartography is different in different periods. Take a look at map 1 and 2. Map 1 was made in 1154 CE by the Arab geographer Al-Idrishi. The section reproduced here is a detail of the Indian subcontinent from his larger map of the world. Map 2 was made in 1720s by a French cartographer. The two maps are quite different, even though they are of the same area. In Al-Idrishi's map, South India is where we would expect to find North India, and Sri Lanka is the island at the top. Place names are marked in Arabic. And there are some well-known names like Kanauj in Uttar Pradesh. That's spelled in the map as Q-A-N-A-U-J, Kanauj. In map 2, the map 2 was made nearly 600 years after map 1, during which time information about the subcontinent had changed considerably. This map seems more familiar to us, and the coastal areas in particular are surprisingly detailed. This map was used by European sailors and merchants on their voyages. Historians today had to be careful about the term they use because they meant different things in the past. For example, today we understand the term Hindustan as India, the modern nation state. When the term was used in the 13th century by Minhaj-e-Siraj, a chronicler who wrote in Persian, he meant the areas of Punjab, Haryana and the lands between the Ganga and Yamuna. He used the term in a political sense for lands that were a part of the dominance of the Delhi Sultan. The areas included in this term shifted with the extent of the Sultanate, but the term never included South India. By contrast, in the early 16th century, Babur used Hindustan to describe the geography, the fauna and the culture of the inhabitants of the subcontinent. Same way, the term foreigner is used today to describe someone who is not an Indian. But in the medieval period, a foreigner was any stranger who appeared to say in a given village, someone who was not a part of that society or culture. In Hindi, the term Pardesi might be used to describe such a person, and in Persian, it is Ajnabi. So, a city dweller therefore might have regarded a forest dweller as a foreigner in the same village, but two persons living in the same village were not foreigners to each other, even though they may have had different religious or caste backgrounds. So the term foreigner was used in different times differently. Historians and their sources. Historians use different types of sources to learn about the past, such as coins, inscriptions, artifacts, textual records. The number and variety of textual records increased dramatically during this period. They slowly displaced other types of available informations. Through this period, paper gradually became cheaper and more widely used. Manuscripts were collected by the wealthy people, rulers, monasteries and temples. They were placed in libraries and archives. What do you mean by archives? Archives are places where the documents and manuscripts are stored. Today, all national and state governments have archives where they keep all their old official records and transactions. Scribes. There was no printing press in those days, so scribes copied manuscript by hand. Who is a scribe? A person who copies out documents, especially one employed to do this before printing was invented. He was known as a scribe. If you have ever copied a friend's homework, you would know that this is not a simple exercise, isn't it? Sometimes you cannot read your friend's handwriting and are forced to guess what is written. As a result, there are small but significant differences in your copy of your friend's work. Similarly, manuscript copying also this way. So, what are the difficulties historians face while using the manuscript? As scribes copied manuscripts, they also introduced small changes, sometimes only a word or a sentence. These small differences grew over centuries of copying until manuscript of the same version or same text become substantially different from one another. This is a serious problem because we rarely find the original manuscript of the author today. We are totally depend upon the copies made by later scribes. So what happened? As a result, historians have to write different manuscript versions of the same text to guess what the author had originally written. Technological changes. The study of 1000 years between 700 and 1750 is a huge challenge to the historians, largely because of the scale and variety of developments that occurred over the period. At different moments in this period, new technologies made their appearances. Some of them are as follows. The Persian wheel in irrigation, the spinning wheel in weaving, firearms in combat. Combat means battlefield. New food and beverages such as potatoes, corn, chilies, tea and coffee. Remember that all these innovations or new technologies and crops came along with the people who brought other ideas with them as well. As a result, this was a period of economic, political, social and cultural changes. You will learn about some of these changes in the coming chapters. Historical periods. Historians do not see time just as a passing of hours, days or years, as a clock or a calendar. Time also reflects changes in social and economic organization, in the persistence and transformation of ideas and beliefs. The study of time is made somewhat easier by dividing the past into large segments or periods that possess shared characteristics. In the middle of the 19th century, British historians divide the history of India into three periods, such as Hindu, Muslim and British or Christians. This division was based on the idea that the religion of the rulers was only important historical change and that there were no other significant developments such as economy, society or culture. Such a division also ignored the rich diversity of the subcontinent. So such a division is not regarded as the historical periods. So the historians divide the history into three periods, such as the ancient Indian history, the ancient period that you will learn in the last year in class 6 about the early man and the early kingdoms. And second one is the medieval period that you are going to learn this year. And third one is the modern period, the arrival of European traders to the Indian subcontinent. Medieval period, mainly the Delhi Sultans, Mughal rulers. These all are we are going to study in the coming lessons. Now, let's listen to a small video and understand it better.
Tracing changes through 1,000 years. In our Indian history, there are so many changes that took place in our geographic and political respect. We can find traces of all the changes in our history. As we know, India was a famous country from long time and people from other countries used to visit us mainly for trade purpose. For the same, various travelers have their own maps, like in 1154 CE, an Arab geographer named Al-Idrisi made a map of India with details of geographic features. The main thing you can see in this map is that the map is in inverted form, that is, the place we know as South India is on the upper side and also the Sri Lanka is on the upper side of the map. In his map, places like Kannauj and Uttar Pradesh was clearly indicated as these were fruitful for travelers and traders both. The tagging on the map was done in Arabic language and was created for the Norman king Roger II of Sicily. Also, the map is named as Tabula Rogeriana. The second map that we have with us was made approximately 600 years after the first map by a French cartographer in 1720s. It was quite different from the previous map in all respects. This map is similar to nowadays map. This map was used by European merchants and traders. This map was much useful than the previous map as it was more detailed with scientific terms used in it. Hindustan. As we know that the traces of history we found are in different languages. As in, different languages all the terms depict different meanings. Let's have an example of the term Hindustan. Hindustan is derived from the modern Persian word Hindu. In Old Persian, the region beyond the Indus River was referred to as Hindus, hence modern Persian Hind and Hindu. This combined with the Iranian suffix stan results in Hindustan, land of the Hindus. Also, during 13th century, writer Minhaj-e-Siraj denoted political context to denote kingdom areas of Punjab, Haryana, and the lands between Ganga and Yamuna by the word Hindustan. The emperors Babur and Amir Khusro used the term Hindustan to describe the flora and fauna and the culture of the citizens of the Indian subcontinent. The another example is foreigner. In the medieval period, a foreigner was a stranger who was not a part of society or culture. For example, a forest dweller was a foreigner to a city dweller. In contrast, two persons from the same village were not foreigners to each other, even if they followed different religious or caste backgrounds. Historian. As history is a mystery where we can find new traces at any time which reveals the facts, for the same purpose, historians keep on working on those. Historian. A historian is a person who studies and writes about the past and is regarded as an authority on it. Historian became a professional occupation in the late 19th century. Let us see about writings. Manuscripts. A manuscript is any document written by hand as opposed to being printed or reproduced in some other way. Before the arrival of printing, all documents and books were manuscripts. Historians face many problems in using manuscripts. Some of them are as under. 1. Manuscripts are badly written, which are hardly understandable. 2. Sometimes due to lack of understandability of handwriting, historians are forced to guess what is written. 3. As scribes copied manuscripts, they also introduced small changes which grew over centuries. 4. Historians have to depend upon the copied version as the original manuscripts are rarely found. Historians divide the past into periods on the basis of economic and social factors to characterize the major elements of different moments of the past. The manuscripts were collected by wealthy people, rulers, and temples. They collect them in their collection, libraries, and archives. These scripts have enormous knowledge with them which was useful to them. Paper. The paper was used to write holy texts, chronicles of rulers, letters, and teachings of saints, petitions, and judicial records, accounts, and taxes. Technological changes affecting social, political, cultural, and economical. In the 1,000 years between 700 to 1750, there occurred large technological changes affecting social, political, cultural, and economical changes. Some of them are 1. Persian wheel in irrigation. 2. Spinning wheel in weaving. 3. Firearms in combat. 4. Eatables like corn, chilies, coffee.
Children, I hope you get an idea about the introductions to our history lessons. the medieval period. Now take a notebook and write it down. You can send the notebook through my personal WhatsApp number within tomorrow. Define the following. A cartographer. A cartographer is a person who makes maps. B. Archives. Answer. Archives are places where documents and manuscripts are stored. Answer the following questions. First question. In what ways has the meaning of the term Hindustan changed over the centuries? Answer. First point. In the 13th century, by Minhaj-e-Siraj used the term Hindustan in a political sense for lands that are part of the Delhi Sultan. Second point. In the 16th century, Babur used the term Hindustan to describe the geography, the fauna, and the culture of the inhabitants of the subcontinent. Third point. Today we understand it as India, the modern nation state. Second question. Who was considered a foreigner in the past? Answer. In the medieval period, a foreigner was any stranger who appeared, say, in a given village, someone who was not a part of that society or culture. Third question. What are the difficulties historians face in using the manuscripts? First point. When scribes copied manuscripts, they also introduced small changes. Second point. These small differences grew over centuries until manuscripts of the same text became substantially different from one another. Third point. As a result, historians have to read different manuscript versions of the same text to guess what the author had originally written. Fourth question. List some of the technological changes associated with this period. There are 4 points. First point. Persian wheel in irrigation. Second point. Spinning wheel in weaving. Third point. Fire ants in combat. And the last point. New food and beverages such as potatoes, corn, chilies, tea and coffee. These are the 4 technological changes associated with this period. You have an activity in this lesson. Compare map 2 with the present day map of the subcontinent and list as many similarities and differences as you can find. You will get the map 2 from page number 2 and you want to compare that map with the present day map and find out or list some of the similarities and some of the differences between the 2 maps. I hope all of you understood the lesson clearly. This is just only an introductory lesson. In the coming chapters, we will learn more about the medieval period. All of you read the textbook well, write the notes neatly and legibly and send to me. Tomorrow, I will send the online test. All of you prepare well for that. Thank you, children.